Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Glad you are here. Wow, do we got some fun going on today with the Rotisserie wings, al pastor, kebabs, and of course a sweet finish. I think you'll enjoy. Anyhow, don't forget to subscribe, and I appreciate you being here. So yes, taking full advantage of that rotisserie I built up for the dual fire. And yeah, it's time to remember exactly how that came together. To begin with, I took a couple of components from my turkey fryer, namely the pivot drive there, and rigged everything up to where I basically have a rotisserie for the dual fire. Now to start things off for this cook, we're going to work with the basket to do some wings, and then later we're going to work with a shish kebab setup for al pastor and some kebabs. So let's get started with crispy wings. Now to give you a sense as to how crispy, listen to this. Okay, that awesome crisp was no accident. It starts with a brine that's a combination of baking soda and salt. I'll have the ratios and a link to the recipe that I followed in the description below. But anyhow, effectively what you want to end up doing is taking your wings, patting them dry, getting as much of the moisture off the skin as possible. Okay. Once you've got that, you put that mixture of baking soda and salt in there, just toss that all up, evenly coat it, and then you're going to put that on your rack to dry brine in the refrigerator for 24 hours. Yeah, you need to start this the day before to get them that crispy. Now the next step in this is to separate out the drumettes from the flats, and basically we're going to start with the drumettes because they need a little bit more cook. But now secret number 2, duck fat. Okay. So get a liberal coating of duck fat on those, toss them around, and then into the basket of the rotisserie they go. So we're starting with the drumettes first and giving them about a 30-minute head start because the flats don't need as long to cook. Okay, so after buttoning up the rotisserie basket and powering that on and letting it do its thing, we're ready to put the flats in just a short while later. Now in this case, repeat the process. A little duck fat on there, toss those around, got that evenly coated, and in go the flats. And you know what? The drumettes were already looking a little crunchy. I gotta tell you, I was liking the color that was building on that. Yeah, and you know what? It was also smelling pretty good too. And so yeah, I got the flats in there and just went ahead and cranked that back on. And honestly, I had to keep peeking at this because they just were looking so good and smelling so good. I just wanted to make sure everything was running perfect. Okay, now listen to the sound of these wings frying in here. I hope you picked that up. But I was starting to hear the crunch a little bit with the sizzle as that thing was rotating. And then as we got to the end, I went ahead and temped these out, and they were north of 200, in this case around 211 on a thick drumette, and we were good. Okay, these are definitely crispy. Without a doubt. Okay, time to get to tossing. Check that out, not bad. Okay, to have a little fun with this, I set up a taste experiment for the family. Yeah, competition, if you will, between 3 sauces and 2 seasonings, okay? Now the 2 on the left are from Green Egg. That's their famous wing sauce and their buffalo wing sauce. The sauce on the right is the white one from Meat Mitch. And then we've got some Old Bay seasoning, and then a newcomer, John Henry's. Yeah, while out shopping, I came across the John Henry brand. His sister highly recommended. She was restocking the shelves with it. And subsequently, it was one of the top winners, along with the buffalo sauce. Now following up from those wings, I decided to go for one of my wife's favorite, al pastor. Crazy good, a fair amount of work. But what I'm doing here is I'm using the Hey Grill Hey recipe. Starts off with onions, butter, can't go wrong there. And then you add your garlic in a little bit later after the onions are translucent. Number of other ingredients start to come into play here. I'm going to list those, I'm going to put a link to the recipe actually in the description below. Some chipotle peppers go in. Some of those dried año peppers, which actually works out pretty well, gives it a certain boldness and depth of flavor. And then basically you just saute this around for a little bit, get everything to kind of merge and meld together, and those dried out año peppers start to soften up. And then once you get those things, to a certain point, you just clip those stems out, and again, get everything just melded and mixed in together. This comes out real well. Now this is the secret right there, the achiote paste. That paste gives it that deep red color and just adds a flavor boost that is crazy. I mean, it's just crazy good. I can't recommend this enough. And again, you need to follow the link and work this one through. Yeah, there's a lot of ingredients, but you know what? It comes together fairly well. Okay, and like I said, you got to pluck the stems out, and then once you pluck the stems out, you put this whole mixture into your blender. And what you're aiming for here is to get it, somewhat smooth. So it doesn't take that many pulses, maybe 10 or 12 pulses, and blend it a little bit. And then once you're done with that, you get this paste. Now that paste, as you can see there, is a little bit thick, but that's okay. We want it to be a little bit thick because we're going to put this on our, effectively our pork cutlets. Now in this case, this is a boneless pork shoulder that I cut around a 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch thick. And what we're going to do is we're going to evenly coat everything inside this bowl. And again, we're going to let this rest overnight. So yeah, you got to start the day before, but trust me, this is definitely worth it. Okay. So while that is marinating, the next day, well, here we go. Assembly. Yep, this is worthwhile work. Now in this case, what we're going to do first, we're going to start putting these things into piles. And what I'm doing here is I'm sorting out the sizes of everything. And the reason I'm doing it this way is I want to try and make sure that I have this evenly balanced when I get it on the rotisserie. Okay. Now in between these piles, I'm putting a layer of pineapple. You don't have to do this, but I wanted to make sure we got that pineapple flavor infused within everything. So effectively just cutting off and trimming, if you will, the rind off the pineapple so that I have these on each of the different layers that are in here. And then again, stacking these up, okay, appropriately, and checking on the balance of everything, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to spear this from the top down and all the way through. Now, getting this balanced is something that is a little bit of a struggle. I just didn't want it to be completely off balance, but I had a couple of strategies in mind here that I'm going to mention as we go. Now the next thing we have here is the flattening plate, and we got one of those on each side. And as you can see, I'm a little bit off balance, but that's okay. As I put the skewers that are used to hold the kebabs in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put pineapple on those skewers. So yeah, I've got pineapple through the layers, and I got pineapple surrounding the outside. Okay, so as we skewer this up, I'm going to clip these into position, okay, around the al pastor pork that's there, just as you see right there. So effectively, each of these plates has a slot and then a spot for the clip to go in. Now right there, putting that pineapple, extra piece of pineapple on the side to counterbalance that, and it tended to work out okay. There was still a little bit of a heavy spot, but by and large we were good. So now we're going to go ahead and preheat that grill to 275. So we're going to be smoking this. I'm letting this rest in the refrigerator a little bit while the grill gets up to temp. Once the grill was up to temp, mounted this in place and started checking out the balance of it a little bit more and doing my pre-flight check. And sure enough, we were rolling pretty good. Looked like everything was working out, fairly well. Now, that said, we were still out of balance just a little bit, okay? I had that thing up to 275, and I decided to put a wireless probe in place. Now, everything was looking good, but I came to discover something. This cooked up so tender. I mean, this thing gets super tender at 140 degrees. And as I was peeking on this, it was looking really good. But then I started to notice it's starting to slough off a little bit of material here. But maybe that's okay. And then wow, everything just fell off the bone tender. Now, you know what? That wasn't going to stop us. We were eating this, and it was fabulous. Now, just to tell you how good this was, okay, I've got an anonymous person here to talk about it. This woman, who does not wish to be identified as my wife, would like to comment on how good the tacos al pastor were.
They were amazing.
Thank you for that proud endorsement. So with that said, yep, a couple days later it was time to do some kebabs. Went ahead and started putting everything together, prepped it all up, sliced the onions, peppers, and squash. Got chicken and breast and beef tri-tip that was on sale. 1.5 inch cube that, marinated the chicken in clods, and marinated the beef in Italian dressing, which is a favorite of mine. Same thing with the mushrooms. Now, as far as the assembly goes, pretty basic. I think most of you have probably seen this done before. Onion, got a mushroom on the end as an end cap. Started separating the protein with the bell peppers and everything in between, and just basically started to build up, if you will, all those layers on the kebabs. Got the beef ones done, finished up with the chicken, and then went ahead and started mounting this into the assembly. A little trickier than I had a time with as far as compared with the al pastor, but once I got this all rigged up and in place, things were looking pretty good, or so I thought. Now, I'll explain that here in just a little bit. But again, the trick here was making sure I had everything in place, clipped in, and everything balanced. And then I got the spit into position, to basically square everything up. Once that was in place, we were good to go. We were good to mount that into the pit. Now, like the chicken wings, I've got that pit preheated, the grill side preheated to 400, and basically just mounted this on into position. The pre-flight, I did not catch that I was not fully clipped on one of the kebabs, so that was my bad. Anyhow, long story short, that came back to haunt me just a little bit later, okay? Because midway through the cook, after adding the counterweight in, I had a little bit of an issue with that one unclipped kebab. Yep, it popped on out. Everything else kept rolling. But that was okay, because I got someone in the family that likes theirs a little bit more well done than the rest. And so she ended up enjoying that one because it had a little bit of a crunchy bark to it. These hit temperature. Basically, I was at 150 on the meat and a little bit, more on the chicken. And it came out darn tasty. I have to say, this is going to be another repeat right there. So all in all, with my first time of cooking on a rotisserie, I gotta say I've been loving it. Next, I got a little bit of a sweet finish for you. This is Mimi's cake, an Amaretto cake, and this is the recipe that she handed down to me. And I gotta tell you, this is a family favorite. Now, I'm not gonna go blow by blow through here, but here's all the ingredients that you have for this lined up. Just believe me when I tell you, this is a sweet pound cake that is purposefully flavored with amaretto. Just comes across really nice, that almond orange mix of everything. And again, once I got this all blended up and put into place and got that cake batter just right where it needed to be, decided to go ahead and cook this on the direct side. Okay, so floured up, greased and floured up my bundt pans that I have. These are two smaller ones, and went in on the indirect side. And I tend to favor that indirect side quite a bit because it just cooks really well on the bottom. For some reason, it just comes out just right. So with the cakes done, it's time to glaze it. That's as simple as melting some orange marmalade and then topping that over the cake and going with some slivered almonds. Really good stuff. Okay, that sound can only mean one thing. It's Zen time. Yes, I do like to accessorize. I went ahead and got that large resting box and the 3-piece knife set. I tell you, it's a nice little knife set, and that resting box is big. But what was pleasantly in that package rolling around was, of all things, that's right, the whole hog from the Ray's Mystery Box. Thank you, Blaine. And yeah, do me a favor, like and subscribe and give me some comments. Truly appreciate it.